How is it going, you guys? Today I have a different type of video in store. So on my stream, we have what's called viewer points. How does viewer points work is if you watch the stream a certain amount of time, you accumulate points that you can redeem for certain rewards on my stream. Some of these rewards are things like you could 1v1 me in the game I'm playing, you can redeem music, or you can even just highlight a message in the chat. But one of the rewards I have is actually a story time. So if you redeem the reward, I will tell a story that's happened from a previous life experience. So on the stream, someone actually got enough points to redeem the story time, and this is that story.
Who I was, everyone knew Sergio, but I was never like hanging out with those people just doing crazy stuff, right? So from here, basically what ended up happening was I ended up TAing for about 3 teachers my 8th grade year, right? So one day, I was organizing one of my teacher's desks, but she asked me to clean it out for her, right? And I see on her desk a little notepad, right? And on the notepad there was these lunch slips. So how lunch slips worked at my school, where basically if you had one of these slips from a teacher, you were able to skip the line. And something to keep in mind about our school district, specifically in Downey, is it's super crowded. So sometimes you could literally be there when the bell rings for lunch and you won't get lunch because the lunch line is that long. That's how packed our school usually is. Like for reference, my graduating class, were I think almost 1,000 people in my graduating class. So I asked her what the notepad is. She's like, oh, I give those to kids who are doing really good in class and they did something good for me. So I gave them a lunch line so they could skip the lunch line. So I asked her, I'm like, oh, hey, is it okay? I have one. And she's like, oh yeah, sure, you could take one if you want. I'm like, all right, perfect, nice. So I got the lunch pass, right? And in my head, I was like, oh shit, I could skip the lunch line, nothing crazy. I got the lunch pass, and as I'm done with the day, I come home with it, right? Because lunch is already over at this point. I don't even have time to use it during the day. And then I get the idea. I'm like, hey, I wonder what would happen if I get this lunch pass and I use one of those printers that scan and I make copies of it. Like literal copies of the paper. I'm like, I wonder if anyone would ever find out if I did it or not, right? And I'm like, knowing my clout at the school with the teachers, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't even get caught. They would just think, oh, he's a good student, he would definitely have it. Like, there's no reason why he wouldn't have one of these, if that makes sense. So I come home, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna print some for my friends, and I'm gonna test this idea out, right? Now, so the next day, I go to school. I have about 10 of these little lunch slips, right, for my group of friends. I'm like, okay, you guys, this is the idea. I'm gonna give you these lunch slips. I'll use mine first, and then we'll use yours after. And we're gonna test it and see if we can actually get away with using these fake lunch passes. So we're like, all right, for sure. So we get to the lunch line. Imagine my whole squad of 8-10 kids, right? Walking to this long ass lunch, and that's probably some kids aren't even gonna get lunch. We show up late with our lunch passes. Look like literally the kids who are well known but aren't super cool. And we literally go to the front of the lunch line and we get the lunch line and we cut the whole entire lunch line for free. Nobody even questions it. And we're like, I'm like, holy shit. I literally have the biggest brain in the world. I could literally scam people for this now. So what? I go home that day and I'm like, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna print out a bunch of these copies of these lunch passes and I'm going to sell them. Because I know there's definitely a market with this. So I go the next day to school with about 10 of these motherfuckers, right? At least 10 of these little lunch passes. And I'm like, today's gonna be the testing day. I want to see if I could legitimately sell these lunch passes, if people will actually buy them, if they'll actually work. And I wanted to sell them to people who I know decently well, just so it doesn't start going around, right? So I sent to 10 people. And I sent it for $1 each, just because I don't want to get too suspicious. Like, how am I getting all this money all of a sudden? Why are kids bringing this money to school? Just $1, just something that people could just find at their house. Super simple, right? And I sell 10 lunch passes that day, and nothing. It literally goes by perfectly fine. Nobody gets caught. Nothing. So I make $10 my first day selling this. And think about this: I'm an 8th grader who can't get a job, literally doesn't have any real way of making money. That's a lot of money for a 10th grader at that time. For 8th grader at least. Think about it. It really is. So next day, I decide, you know what? I'm gonna go full blown for this shit. I'm gonna do this. Next day, I bring 40 lunch passes, you guys. 40 lunch passes, a stack like this of lunch passes. I sold them all. Literally sold all the lunch passes. Within 2 days of making this lunch passes, I made $50. $50 off of lunch passes. Like, think about that. I have a monopoly on these lunch passes, and kids my age didn't really know, or that type of printer wasn't really like a well-known technology, and it wasn't super widespread as it is now. So kids didn't even really have a way of making copies like the way I made copies. Day 2 goes perfectly fine, and I start selling lunch passes throughout the week. I think I made that first week close to about like $80, right? Probably around there. Just off a lunch pass, and like I said, $80 for 8th grader, bro, that's a lot of money. A lot of money. So, this is where things started falling apart. So one day, we're in my math class, right? And one of my friends is like, one of my close friends that like that original group I was with, I call him the Cinnamon Council. I tell him, he's like, oh bro, I forgot a lunch pass today, can you just give me one? I'm like, oh yeah, for sure man, I got you. I'll give you one of the lunch passes I have. Because I always carry extra because, you know, I'm selling them. So, my math teacher literally sees me give my friend the lunch pass, right? And so, she's like, oh, what are you giving your friend Calvin there, Sergio? And I'm like, oh, I'm just giving up one of my lunch passes. I don't need it because I don't really eat lunch at school. Just making up some random story, right? I said, oh, okay. And as class is about to end, she says, hey, Calvin and Sergio, is there a way you guys can actually wait after class? I need to talk to you guys for a second. And I'm like, oh my god. And the worst thing is the friend who was like, I was passing the thing towards, is the kid who chokes under pressure. If the teacher talks to him, he just falls apart. Like, he literally shakes. It's just a mess. Like, I just knew he was probably gonna fall apart. So I literally told her right before the class ends, Calvin, right now, I just need you to just stay quiet, and I'm just gonna do all the talking. Please just shut up. We cannot get caught right now. Because if we get caught, this is a scandal at this point. After class happens, and she's like, hey, so Sergio, I want to see the lunch pass you gave to your friend. So she's like, oh, can I see what'd you give Calvin, Sergio? I'm like, oh, I gave him one of my lunch passes. I don't need it. Like I said, I really don't even lunch at school, so I just didn't need it, and he really hungry, so I just wanted to give it to him. He's like, oh, is there anybody I can see the lunch pass? My friend's Calvin's like, oh yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll give you the lunch pass. Like, no problem. We'll give you the lunch pass. So he gives her the lunch pass, right? And she's like, oh, so this one's different from the other ones I've seen before. So as she's saying that, I look at Calvin, and Calvin's shitting his pants, man. Like, he's literally just like, I'm like, this kid's about to cry. He's probably gonna shit himself at this point. And she does the craziest thing in the world. She says, is there any way, if you guys want, I just really want to see if she gave you guys this. So is it cool if I call the teacher just to ask her if she actually gave you these lunch passes? Because I'm having a tough time believing that she did. And so in my head, I'm like, oh my god, if I say no, then I'm effed no matter what. So I'm like, you know what, dude? This is where we take gambles. And like I said, I play poker, man. I know what doing gambles is. I still do gambles to this day. So I tell her, I look her right in the eyes, and I say, yeah, go ahead and call her. She'll for sure vouch for me. Like, she definitely gave me the lunch passes. And she goes, okay. And I kid you not, she walks towards the phone, and I knew she was probably trying to wait for me to break under pressure. And she goes, you know what? I believe you guys. Just go out to lunch. Have a good day, you guys. And I kid you not, as I walk out, bro, this kid Calvin literally is like, oh my god, dude. I didn't know what to do. I thought I was done. I thought we were just about to... I thought we were going to get in trouble. We were going to go to the principals and all this and that. And I'm like, nah, man. We're not going down that easy. We're not going down that easy. And that was the first scare I had. And that was the first moment I felt like Pablo Escobar when the DEA is up on him. Like, oh my god. Like, I'm not invincible. Like, I definitely can get caught. Later on that week, my other friends are like, hey man, can we have some lunch pass? And so I'm like, oh yeah, for sure. And I tell them, like I said, I was a TA, so I had sometimes had to stay after class to help the teacher out because they were super nice to me. So I'm like, oh, I'll help them out. Like, there's no point in me really like saying, oh, I'm not gonna help you out, like F you, right? So I told my friends, oh shit, yeah, I'll give you guys the lunch passes or whatever. And like I said, usually the teachers never ever really check the lunch passes. They're like, oh yeah, they just like glanced at it, okay, and they just ripped it up and threw it away, right? I'm like, oh yeah, you guys can have the lunch passes, whatever, it's all cool. So we go on throughout, I go stay back, my friends are going at lunch, and then all of a sudden one of my friends texts me, Sergio, they got us, bro, they fucking got us. And I'm like, wait, what are you telling me? What do you mean they got us, man? What do you mean they got us? What are you talking about? And he's like, bro, they found that the lunch passes were fake. We're going all to the principals right now. I'm just letting you know. I'm like, oh my god, bro, they caught us. I'm like, how did they even catch us? So lunch goes by. I'm not called to the principal's office at all. And I get into my 5th period, and in my 5th period, I have all my friends in my class, right? And everyone just, all the people I stole lunch passes to, all the people who know I was selling lunch passes come up to me. They're like, bro, Sergio, you're done. They got you, man. I don't know how you're gonna get out of this one, this, and that. And I'm like, okay, explain to me what happened. So this is where I kind of was a little bit clueless, and some of the people I stole passes to were a little bit clueless too as well. Is when I asked for those lunch passes originally from that teacher, she was supposed to sign them to validate them, right? Nobody ever really checked the passes. They just knew what they looked like, so they just saw them and just glanced them, and none of the teachers really cared. But on this unfortunate day, they decided to check them. So like I said, the mistake I made was I never asked her to sign the lunch passes to actually validate them. So I was handing out lunch passes without any teacher signatures on them. So they weren't necessarily valid, if that makes sense. And the reason we were able to get away from them for so long is because the teacher who is usually working lunch duty never actually checked the passes. So we go on, and they're all telling me, Sergio, so we show up for the lunch, right? And today it was a new teacher for the lunch duty, and they're checking our passes, and they're like, wait a minute, did you guys take this from your teacher? And we're like, oh no, why? What happened? Like, these aren't signed. And I could tell these were probably not even the original paper as well too. So I'm like, oh my god. And they're like, oh my god. And they're like, yeah, unfortunately you guys, I need all you guys to come to the principal's office to meet because we need to get to the bottom of this. I'm like, oh my god. And I tell them, so what did you guys tell the principal? And they're like, honestly, Serge, we sold you out, bro. We sold you out. We are not going down. We are not going down. They were pressing us all. They were literally giving in. And once one of us broke, we all broke down. But we all started selling each other out. And it was a mess. So I tell them, I literally gave you power, bro. You guys were even selling them for yourselves. And you guys ratted me out? This is what I realized what it felt like to be a drug cartel whose gang turns on them, bro. You think they're loyal, and in the moment they get caught, they flip on you like this, bro. Like this. So I'm like, oh my god, they ratted me out. And I'm like, so what is your guys' consequences? So they're like, well, basically, we got suspended for a whole entire week. And we have lunch duty, which means they eat, but the moment they're done with their lunch, they have to spend their whole entire snack and their lunch cleaning and picking up trash around campus. And they're like, they're probably going to call you later on, though. So I'm like, oh my god, of course they're going to call me later on, right? The day goes on, I didn't get a single call, bro. Not a single call. And I'm like, wait a minute. That's a little weird. Why did they literally ratted me out and I didn't get a single call? So I'm like, all right, bro. I'm like, there's like no way, right? There's no way. Next day, we have track practice, right? Because I'm in track, and I was like the best distance runner on the team. And my track coach talks to me, and he's like, hey, Sergio, I just want to let you know you really messed up, man. I'm like, I know, man. I know I messed up. He's like, you know what, dude? I'm going to be honest. I talked to them. I talked to the principal. I talked to the counselors. And I told them, we really need you for the team. I think you could probably win the race or at least get top 3 and do a good representation for our school at the district track meet. So I begged them not to kick you off the track team and let you finish off your year without any problems. So I'm like, you're kidding me. He's like, yeah, man, I'm serious. Like, we vouch for you, so we're not gonna kick. You're perfectly fine, bro. Don't even worry about it. Just act like nothing happened. Teachers aren't gonna bring it up. Just don't use the lunch passes ever again. And it was at this moment I realized the amount of power I had in my school without even realizing it. Basically, that whole entire month, my friends were just hating on me, saying, bro, we got lunch detention, our lunch is ruined for like this whole entire month. All these different types of things just because, and you didn't get caught. And I'm just like, wow, man, I literally just got away with murder. And to top it all off, at the end of the year, we have this big ceremony, right? Let me see if I can find it. Oh, I probably have it right here. Give me a second. Alright. So at the end of every single year, we have this big award ceremony for the 8th graders, right? Kind of like they're like graduation like awards. So as they're announcing the awards, they announce the International Service Above Self Award. It's basically like the citizenship award of the city, right? And guess whose name they called? Sergio motherfucking Salas, bro. And just to prove it, here's my plaque right here with my honorary Rotary International Service Above Self Award, bro. Right here. And that is the story I pulled off the biggest scam any middle school has ever pulled off in their entire lives.
Alright, you guys, hopefully you liked the video. If you guys did like the video, I would appreciate a like, and also maybe you can even subscribe if you're feeling a little bit more generous today. It's completely free. See you guys next time.